Hello everyone, welcome to Eagle News Live, Washington, D.C. I am Eliza Gonzalez Manglekmont.
And I'm Blaine Brooks.
Hello Blaine, how are you?
It's good to see you.
Today we are going to say hello to our correspondents in Arizona, New York, and
Canada.
And Canada, hopefully, and Virginia Beach.
All right, very good.
Hello. First, we have with us Lisa Docena from Arizona. Hi, Lisa. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Eliza. Hi, Blaine.
Hi,
Thanks for having me.
Lisa, where are you at right now? Where in Arizona?
So today I'm in Mesa, Arizona, which is a suburb of Phoenix. So if you know where Phoenix is, you probably know where Mesa is. I'm at the Mesa Grand Shopping Mall because today we're having a bad air quality day.
Okay.
When the air is bad here in the Phoenix region, it's advised that most people stay indoors. Behind me is a theater that on Tuesdays has movies for just $5. So this is actually a place I'm pretty sure a lot of people, in fact I was here earlier and a lot of people have gone in to buy their movie tickets, to stay indoors. I can give you a look at the parking lot, which you can see is actually packed.
Wow.
And that shows you that people are staying out. Now what you don't see, if you look over here, is those chairs are normally filled with people having early lunch, getting together, just hanging out and having coffee. And you won't see that on a day like today because it's too hot and it's bad air quality. So people are going to be indoors.
And Lisa, question for you.
Yes.
You mentioned that folks are trying to avoid the bad air. For those that don't have this happening in their community, what exactly do you mean by a bad air day?
Well, what happens is the ground is hot, especially during summertime. Even though overnight the temperatures drop slightly, the ground never actually cools down the way it does in wintertime. And then you have the regular air temperature that's here, and then above us is a high, up in the clouds is even hotter temperature. So you've got, or cooler weather. You've got that cooler weather trying to come down, you've got hot weather trying to come up, and so it packs the air, makes it stagnant right here, closer to the ground, and that's when you get all the pollution stuck and condensed into one area. It's really not good for people like, who have chest problems or lung problems, small children. It affects them more. Healthy people, their bodies can probably just feel a little discomfort, but for those who are suffering from eczema, eczema and stuff, they really need to be indoors where the air is clean.
How often does a bad air quality day happen in that area, in Mesa or Phoenix?
Since I just moved here to Phoenix a few months ago, but since I've been here, it hasn't happened that often because Phoenix actually has, some north wind coming down, so it usually clears out the air, so you don't get it that often. But when there isn't very much movement, and then there's a cool front way up in the clouds, and it's hot down here, that's when that air compresses, and that's when you get bad air quality days like today.
Okay, does bad air quality day happen during hot days?
It does happen during hot days. So when it's really hot, and then a cold air will drift in from somewhere else, like coming down from the north, and it's high, that's what causes that compression to push the hot air down. Because that cold air is trying to come down, but the hot air is there, so the hot air just gets compressed down, and then it thickens the pollution. So that usually happens when it's really, really hot, and it's starting to change, the weather's starting to change and try to cool off.
Yeah, earlier Blaine, Lisa sent us a photo of her in the shade, but with this fan. She had a fan. Could you show us the huge fan that you brought?
I put it down.
You put it down. How hot is it there? How hot is it there today?
Right now it's about 100 degrees. We expect it to get to 108 or 110 today. So usually after lunch, when it hits about 3 o'clock, that's when it peaks. It starts to get hot. It usually holds until about 5 o'clock. So about 3 to 5 today, it'll probably be around 108, 110.
Yeah.
Wow.
Enough to cook a sunny side up?
I'm going to do that for you guys today.
All right.
Well, I'm going to test it, and then I'm going to do it live for everybody to watch. But especially on vehicles. Like, people don't realize if you've never lived in the desert. I didn't know this until I lived in Las Vegas. I didn't know that then either. But what happens is it gets really, really hot, and even the door handles on your car get so hot.
Yes.
And if you're not paying attention, you can really burn yourself when you try to open the door to your car.
That's true.
Especially if it's parked right out in the sun. So, you know, those are little things that you have to learn when you move out here.
Yeah.
But there's small price to pay for living in a nice place with nice weather. You do get used to that 100-degree weather.
I don't know about that. I guess I've heard people talk about dry heat. So maybe because of the desert's lack of humidity compared to places like the East Coast, maybe it feels a little more comfortable. But above 100 degrees, I think it's always hot.
So I was gonna say when we were in Spokane, Washington, once it hit 100 degrees, it feels the same after that. It's just hot.
It's true. It's true. But for us here in Arizona, it's when it hits 110.
Wow. That's hot.
That's hot.
Anything under 110, it's still doable. It's still something that we can live with.
Now, let me ask you about this. You've told us a little bit about the bad quality air day.
Yeah.
And here on the East Coast and other places where there's more humidity, in addition to that very serious condition you've mentioned about bad quality air, we have what sometimes in the news they'll talk about as a bad hair day. I think that's mostly because of the humidity.
Humidity, yes, it's so muggy.
Are you affected in Arizona by that same horrible condition of a bad hair day? Does that happen?
It doesn't happen that much here in Arizona because we mostly have dry weather. There is some humidity here, but it's nothing compared to what I felt where you guys are. The humidity on the East Coast or even in Texas is really horrible and it's really bad for your hair. But here, most people have good hair day because it's really not that humid.
All right.
A little bit of
I'm going to Arizona.
keep you from drying out. Yes, you would love it here. In fact, you know, a lot of people from Canada come down here for 6 months out of the year when it's too cold up in Canada. They work from Arizona, so they all go home here. And they stay here because they like to golf, they like the perfect weather. It's really only hot here like maybe 3 months out of the whole year, and the rest of the year, it's perfect weather.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. I think Blaine is gonna move there.
I'm ready to move. The older I get, the thinner my hair gets, and I have more bad hair days.
Like he has to worry about bad hair day.
Oh, it gets noticeable.
Really?
There's not much humidity in here. You wouldn't know.
Okay.
Watch until I wait until I walk outside. It'll be terrible.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Lisa.
Joining us this afternoon, Blaine, is our correspondent from New York City. I'm hoping she's not having a bad hair day. Hi, Tenny.
Hi, and yes, I am having a bad day. Why my hair is off.
Well, sorry about that, Tenny.
Tenny, where are you at right now? Could you describe to us where you are exactly?
I'm here in Elmhurst, New York. Elmhurst is actually a neighborhood, a very, as you hear, it's very noisy.
Very busy neighborhood.
Like New York City.
A lot of honking.
Elmhurst is a neighborhood in the borough of Queens. If you don't know, our viewers, Queens is the most diverse borough in New York City.
Okay, diverse, you mean? Could you explain it further?
Well, there's a lot of diversity. Like it's a culture. Like New York City is known as a cultural melting pot.
Mm-hmm.
But specifically in Queens, you have in each neighborhood a variety of nationalities.
Okay.
Here in Elmhurst, you see there's a lot of. It's very Asian populated. So there's a lot of small businesses and restaurants.
Okay.
Chinese, Taiwanese, Indonesian, Thai, Filipino, you name every Asian country is here pretty much near Elmhurst.
Okay,
I've got a simple explanation for that.
go ahead.
President Trump was born in Queens, and I was too. Very diverse neighborhood.
Okay, aside from cultural diversity, what else could we see there in Queens?
Well, basically in Queens, I mean, the late Anthony Bourdain had mentioned this in one of his episodes. That, and he grew up in New York, and in one of his episodes, he said that he did on Queens. He said he never knew how diverse Queens is, and he always thought that the best places to eat were in Manhattan until he came to Queens. So, if anybody
Aw.
comes to Queens, this is the place to eat. It's cheap, it's good, and it feels like you're actually eating in the Pacific country. So right, like in back of here, I have this kind
Right.
So here they have, you know, like I'm looking back here, those egg waffles, they're selling it here, durian ice cream, ube, you know. There's a bunch of places here in Elmhurst where you can eat and enjoy.
Well, ice cream sounds good for Lisa right now, who's burning in Phoenix. Tenny, we hear a lot of honking. Is that a normal thing in Queens?
Anywhere you go in New York.
New York,
Except maybe Staten Island. You'll always hear honking from cars, buses, whether they're walking, jaywalking, or they're not doing anything. People are just always honking.
In other parts of the U.S. where we've been, sometimes honking is taken offensively. It's like if you hear somebody honk at you, you feel offended. It's a normal thing you say. How about in D.C., Blaine?
Well, I think in D.C. it's used both ways. There's a concern if you honk at people you don't know, they might take offense, and since you don't know them, who knows what they'll do. On the other hand, sometimes honking's used just to greet a person, just to say hello.
Okay.
I've done that with people, sometimes with my wife in the car, and she'll say, "Do you know them?" I'll say, "No,
It's
just
a
saying hi."
Well, growing up in the Philippines, honking is part of everyday traffic. It's like, hello, or I'm gonna hit you, or get out of the way.
Oh yes, definitely warning people about the fact you're there, and you don't want them in the way as you're coming through.
Correct. Thank you, Tenny. We'll come back to you in a little bit. Joining us also is Kit Magluno, also from Arizona. Kit?
Hello.
Hi, Kit.
How are you guys?
Doing great, thank you. How about yourself?
I'm pretty well. Thank you for asking.
Could you describe to us where you are right now, Kit?
Well, I am in Ahwatukee, which is a Phoenix suburb, here at the high school that I coach at, Horizon Honors.
Okay.
And we are just ending our summer volleyball practices.
All right.
Oh, volleyball. So tell us about volleyball. Are you coaching? Are you playing?
I am actually the coach here. This is my
Wow.
fourth year, about to start fourth year. We were in the top 3 in the last 3 years, and we also won the state championship 2 years ago.
Wow.
That sounds great. Very impressive.
Thank you.
Kit, I have 2 daughters. I have twin daughters, and they're both very into volleyball. And they just recently, last school year, the school year that just ended, they were part of junior varsity. Could you explain to our televiewers what the difference what's the difference between junior varsity and high school
Varsity.
varsity?
Well, the difference between the junior varsity and the varsity is that the junior varsity level is more of a development competitive. So they're not quite there yet in regards to the skill level, but they're getting experience with competing against other schools, learning all the rules, learning the speed of the game, the techniques, and also the strategy. The varsity level is the actual team that competes for state championship kind of things, going into playoffs or even regional championships.
Okay. But if a parent would want her kids or his kids to get into volleyball, what should we look into, like especially during the summer?
Yeah, great time.
There are plenty of camps like what we're doing summer league or summer practices, but there are also other places where you can go to at your local recreation center. With their volleyball leagues, they could do a lot of volleyball clubs in your area. You can do volleyball camps where kids can come in and do skill specific drills and learn each position, or even do a league just like this, joint club. Right now in another part of our nation, in Detroit, is the USA Volleyball Nationals is happening right now.
Well, that's great.
There's multiple levels of volleyball, whether you're a beginner or whether you're advanced. There's also, it's just getting yourself out there, basically.
Let me ask you a question, a little bit frivolous. When I was younger, in high school, they would give us letters for our sport. You'd earn a letter. So you have the varsity letter folks, you'd have the JV letter folks. Do they still use the letters, or have we gone totally virtual and they're maybe just giving you badges now instead?
Our school does, I believe it's by school, but our school still uses the letters. However,
All right.
because of the heat here in Arizona, not about a lot of our students have the Letterman jackets because they are really thick, and so they just use it for decoration. I see them in the kids' binders when I'm here during the school day. So they just
Yes.
have it for their own decorations. But yes, we still give out letters for being a varsity athlete, and then if you're a multiple athlete, you get a one of the pins or a badge, like what you mentioned
Okay.
earlier.
That's great because they're wonderful winter coats, but like you said, you wouldn't want to wear them in a hot climate.
Not in
Right, and
Arizona.
yeah, you're right. Yes.
Thank you, Kit. You know, Kit joining us today is also a very serious volleyball player, like Lisa Docena, who I know is a very serious volleyball player too. We have with us in Virginia Beach, Sarah Nachman, a volleyball player as well. Sarah, thank you for joining us today.
Hello, Sarah. Not hearing you right now.
We can't hear you right now, Sarah. Could you turn on your mic? I see you, but I can't hear you.
Looks like a great outdoor shot.
Yeah, she is with her kids, in enjoying the
It's like
warm
mom's
day.
enjoying the pool, maybe.
Yes, yes, in a pool. We'll get back to you, Sarah, when we fix your audio. Okay, today is July 26th, Blaine,
Yes,
and
indeed.
July 26th is marked as World Drug Day, or the International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Trafficking. According to UN.org, it is an initiative to increase support for prevention of drug use based on science, and is thus an effective instrument in the well-being of children, the youth, their families, and their communities.
Right.
Blaine, Myanmar and Laos mark World Drug Day with a dramatic torching ceremony, setting a huge stockpile of pills and other drugs on fire. What are your reactions to World Drug Day? How do you think individuals like us, or members of the community, could actually contribute to helping eradicate this global problem of illegal drug abuse?
Well, I'm glad you clarified that World Drug Day is a day that's really trying to fight against illegal drug usage. Because when you talked about torching, I thought to myself, well, if cannabis is part of that, the best way for any of us to contribute is to stay away from all the smoke so that we don't get high
That's true.
while they're torching it.
Yeah, it's true. But I've seen the footage. It's kind of far from the cameras, far from everybody when they torch the stockpile of drugs there.
Well, that's what they want you to see, obviously. That's not clear to me that that's the case for everybody in the area. But as Nancy Reagan used to say, one approach is just say no. Don't get caught up in it in the first place. But we've seen in this country and in Europe that there have been real problems with opioid addiction. So one could say no, but it's your medical professionals that are helping you get hooked. So it's a real challenge for people who aren't even trying to become drug addicts or become addicted to be sure that they're receiving proper dosage and that they're
Ready,
getting the care
guys?
they need before they become addicted. It's a real problem.
It is, it is. Let's ask our correspondents. Lisa, what do you think? Lisa?
Well, for me, I try to stay on the positive side. So I feel like if we keep talking about the the war against drugs or drug abuse, I think what happens is it brings more attention to it, especially to the younger groups who might not have any exposure whatsoever to drugs or anything. So my approach, I think what we should do is, the Iglesia Ni Cristo had this special message years ago. I want to say when we first started covering them about 10 or 15 years ago, but it was a message that says that the family is the smallest unit of society, of any community. And so if you work on the family, and then the families work together with other families to make a community stronger, then communities work with other communities to make the world better. I think that that's the approach that we should take towards getting past this whole drug problem. I think that if we did more healthy things like invite families, see them go out and do hiking together or biking or exercise together, having the whole family make a conscious effort to eat better, then they won't get into situations where they might need any kind of even medical drugs. And this way it promotes happiness, self-esteem. And if each family does that, and then families invite other families to do it, and then communities work with other communities, I think that that might be a more positive approach. Because if we report on all of these good things happening in these smaller communities, then eventually it might have an impact on bigger global communities. So that's just what I think.
We're going to start
more
right here. And
proactive,
when I say go, when I go
happier,
like this, just swim,
positive
okay?
way of addressing this issue. Give more options to our kids. Give more options to people who are already in that situation. Show them that it could be done. Cover more reports on people who have used health and fitness to overcome such situations. And then maybe if we report more on that, we can have a positive effect on more communities. That's my take on it.
Thank you, Lisa. Speaking of having families come together, enjoy outdoor activities, and spending more time with each other, joining us again is Sarah Nachman from Virginia Beach, who is actually spending time with her kids at the pool. Sarah.
Can you hear me? Sound like the commercial. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
Yes.
Definitely a lot
Okay,
better
great.
than it was.
So we're outside because the kids been indoors playing video games.
Let me briefly interrupt you. Can you do us a favor and turn your camera 90 degrees so that you're right side
there
up?
You go.
Excellent. Thank you
I don't
so
know
much.
what's happening. It's like, it doesn't like me.
Now you look like Sarah. I recognize you.
There you go.
Okay, Sarah, where are you right now?
I'm in Virginia Beach. I'm in my, here we go, my brother's house. So he has a pool. So the kids, they've been cooped up in the house playing video games. And so I kicked them out of the house. They want to go and play video games. I said, nope, go outside. But, you know, it's really hot outside, but there are options if you don't want your kids to play out in the sun. You can see here my other son, he's laying in the pavement over here. He's fully clothed with what you call the rash guard. So if they don't like to be lathered with sunblock, that's a good option for them for protection with the sun. Of course, before you go out there with your kids, make sure they have sunblock 30 minutes before they go out in the sun. And you have to replenish the sunblock, I believe every 2 hours. There's a lot of options with sunblock. You can go with all natural sunblock where there's a lot of product where it's not bad for the kids. There's not a lot of unnecessary chemicals. Or you can just go to a standard sunblock. Make sure it's a broad spectrum. And so there's a lot of options. There's sunblock for sports, sunblock for just leisurely walk. But of course, nothing can beat a nice UV protection umbrella or a hat, sunglasses, and for television sake, I have none of that. So I'm doing it all for you guys. I'm bringing myself out here in the sun for you guys.
Thank you, Sarah. Well, is that Leonardo on the ground?
It is. Look at him. He's just lounging like a lizard.
Okay, Sarah,
he said it's very cold.
We're talking about World Drug Day, or the International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Trafficking. And Lisa brought up something as to ways to actually help eradicate this global problem. How do you, as a mother of 3 young kids, how do you not introduce to them, but educate them about this global issue of drug abuse?
Well, you know, the first thing about they say tackling its problem is identifying it. So we identify there is a crisis, especially here in America, opioid crisis. So we have to, tackle it by identifying the problem. We know there's a problem. 2, we have to educate the kids. a lot of them don't know the risk of taking drugs. They may just be taking the drugs because their doctors, or not just the adults, but not just the kids, but the adults. They may be taking drugs because they're in pain, and they don't know the consequences of it. So I think informing the public is very important, and I think that's a great information to have. Let them know, hey, I'm giving you this drug, but this can happen if you abuse it. And it's surprising that a lot of them, they don't know that the drugs actually is deadly in combination of other things, or you can only take it with your doctor's supervision. Or some of them, like myself, I prefer not to take any pain medication as much as I can take it, because I know all of the side effects, not just medical side effects, but the psychological side effect. I don't want to be addicted to it. So, like I said, informing the public, coming from your doctor, just don't prescribe it. The doctor, they have a responsibility of telling the public, hey, I'm giving you this, but you have to be aware of the consequences if you take this drug. But that's my personal view on it.
Thank you, Sarah. We'll go back to you in a little bit. Tenny?
Indeed. Tenny, you're still with us?
Yes, I am. Oh.
Tenny, hi.
If you would, we'd love to hear any perspectives you've got about the drug crisis
Blaine,
and
Tenny,
World Drug Day.
Tenny is a teacher, if I'm not mistaken. She's also a teacher, and she deals with little kids. Tenny, how does the school system, or in your area at least, deal with educating little kids about this danger?
Hi, sorry, repeat that. I just came out. It was so noisy. Again, New York City.
We're telling our viewers that you yourself is a teacher to very young kids. How does the school actually help educate kids about this danger of drug abuse?
Well, it's taught in many of the health teachers usually brush up on it. Because it's a very sensitive issue to teach about in public schools, especially with the being in a diverse setting like New York City. So from what I know, because I'm not always with the kids, but I know for a fact that the health teacher usually emphasize, just basically what's going on, to listen to what the news is saying, but also, especially, the teachers try to also educate the parents that they have to be mindful of what to teach the kids, especially about drugs.
I'm done swimming.
Thanks, Tenny.
Go get a towel in that bag.
Kit, hi. Yeah, we know that you're very sports inclined, and you coach athletes. Athletes too have been, some of them also sometimes fall into illegal drug use. What can you say about this, Kit?
I think, I work at the school. So right now I'm in the high school courtyard. And so as a teacher, we do a lot to educate our students about the consequences of, what happens if you fall into drug abuse. The things that we're doing here at the school is we're labeling ourselves as a drug-free zone, even bullying, the stance that we here at the high school take is there's a lot of students that may go into drug use because of being bullied, so or even peer pressure. So kind of avoiding those things and making it aware to our students is super helpful in spreading the information around.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I would love for my daughters to also be aware of what to avoid and what not to be around in, so to make sure that they're safe when it comes to these kinds of things.
Exactly. I think that for so many of our children and so many of our families, we're not really pursuing illegal drugs. The challenge comes when there's a drug for a good purpose.
That's true.
That we start to use, or that there's a certain amount of pressure maybe for an athlete, for example, who wants to be faster, recover better, and they start to take a substance and then start to abuse it. That's where real challenges come for our society. Thank you for sharing, Kate.
You are welcome.
Well, we have a little more time here. As you may have heard, today in Spain, we've got a very unique trial that's taking place. It involves an 85-year-old Spanish doctor. His name is Eduardo Vela, and he worked as a gynecologist at a now defunct clinic, San Ramon, in Madrid. He's appearing in court today, and he's facing some very serious charges. They include falsifying official documents, illegal adoption, unlawful detention, and certifying a non-existent birth. The reason this comes up is because of the history of Spain, going back into the very late 30s, coming forward from the 1930s. In this particular case, Dr. Vela was accused in 1969 of taking a young woman, or a person who became a woman later, Inés Madrigal, who's now aged 49, and taking her from her biological mother and giving her to another woman. An unofficial adoption, if you will. Basically a type of a kidnapping using the law of the state. Inés Madrigal was then raised by this other woman who served as her mother and was falsely certified in the records as the birth mother. This is just a terrible circumstance. And this happened over a course of decades in Spain. There are many reports that make clear that during the dark period of the dictatorship of Generalissimo Francisco Franco that ran from 1939 until his death in 1975, that newborns that belonged to left-wing opponents of his regime were taken from their parents. This later expanded from just being a type of political power play to a moral power play, where not only the liberal opponents, but also unmarried parents or poor couples had their children removed from them in a conspiracy that's alleged that involved doctors, the Catholic Church, as well as convents and places of adoption, so that this led to many children being removed from their households without any complete records that would allow them to later find their birth parents. So this is just a terrible circumstance that really echoes some of the things that are happening in the news today.
Blaine and our correspondents out there, according to reports also, the new mothers who they were frequently told that their babies had died suddenly within hours of birth, and that the hospital had taken care of their burials, when in fact they were actually given or sold to another family.
Just terrible.
How would you feel, Blaine, if, let's say, you were told that your child didn't survive, and then years later you learned that the child was actually given to another family without you allowing it?
Yeah, I can only imagine that you'd feel destroyed. This idea that you've not only suffered what you understood to be the death of your child that you'd prepared for and were loving before they were even born, but then later you feel like they've died again because they were not only taken from you but given to another family, and you have no contact with them, no ability to go to them and provide them comfort, no ability to have them join with whatever other brothers and sisters they might have or your extended family. So I can only imagine from the mother's perspective, it's a profound tragedy that's really multiplied by the fact that it was the state, the government that was involved in this tragedy.
And if I were, what's her name?
Inés Madrigal.
Inés Madrigal, I don't know how I'm gonna feel if at 49, or maybe when I reach the 40s, I learned that my parents, who I grew up with, aren't actually my real birth parents, and I wouldn't know how to. I wouldn't know how I would feel, especially if I grew up in a house where I was nurtured properly or nurtured well, and so let's toss it to our mothers, to our correspondents, or mothers as well. Lisa, how would you feel? You have kids too. How would you feel if this thing happened to you? If
You
you
know,
were the
I
parent.
I think I think it's not we're not going to be able to say across the board one emotion's going to come through, because I'm sure that in some cases, the kids were probably better off. If somebody could afford to buy a baby, they probably had a lot of means to raise that baby with a lot of privilege. So for that, it might have been good for some of them. But as a parent, I'm going to tell you right now that anybody involved in such a situation should be put in jail and given very, very few privileges. And they should be made to suffer as much as possible, because, women go through postpartum depression after they have a child when they have a live child that they're very happy to have. Can you imagine having to go through that, where you don't understand? You took care of yourself, you did your best while you were pregnant, and then you had what you thought was going to be a healthy baby, and then they told you that the baby died and didn't really give you an excuse. So to me, that's just horrific. There's no excuse for it. I'm not even sure there's punishment in the world suitable for such a crime. And then on the side where you mentioned that, they were taking the babies from the left wing people, and I think in that case, their attempt to brainwash these children or raise them in a belief system that they preferred is going to backfire on them. Because if I were raised in a household, even if I was nurtured and loved by that household, and then I found out later that I was taken from my natural parents because, my natural parents had a different belief, I would probably search for that different belief and embrace it, simply because I'd want to know where I actually came from. So I feel like having this story come out is going to backfire to the regime that actually brought this to fruition. The ones that thought it up and allowed it to happen, it's going to backfire on them. But my heart goes out to all the people who had to suffer loss of a child, or now stress of identity, not really knowing who they are or where they come from. I think that those are challenges, and I'm hoping and praying that all of those that had to suffer from it will be able to survive this, and come out stronger, come out more blessed. Hopefully, with two sets of parents that love them and are still there to embrace them. So I'm an optimist person. I always hope for the best.
Well, thank you very much, Lisa. Tenny, you have a lot of involvement with children. Let me ask you, as a person who clearly has a lot of
Are you guys
love
still there? Did I
inside
lose
for
you? I'm sorry, I don't
young
hear you
ones,
now.
to tell us a little bit about your perspective on this type of a tragedy. Hi, Tenny. Are you able to hear me?
Tenny?
Yes. Hi.
Hi, Tenny. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, I can hear you.
Great.
I feel like
I
crying.
was
when
wondering
I'm
if you
hearing
would be
everyone's
able to
responses.
share with us some of your perspectives about this type of tragedy.
Well, I'm not a mother myself, but being that I've been in the education field for almost 20 years, I am like kind of like a mother figure to to children. And if it were to happen to say any of the kids, of course, I'd kind of be frantic, not only for the child, but also for me myself. I'm not, like I said, I'm not a mother, but if I were, you know, just like what Lisa said, my heart goes out to the families, and it's. I mean, I'm just like I'm so speechless right now. I mean, I don't know how else to react other than if that were to happen to me, say if I were adopted or someone, I would want to know, like, um you know to kind of like research, like, oh, how did this come about, or where are my, like, just do research on it. I mean, it's you know I mean, just listening to this, I'm already um just
Okay.
like
Thank you,
emotional
Tenny.
about it. So it's
it's very disheartening. I mean, my like I don't know what else to say other than to just my heart is with families out there. I'm trying
Thank
not
you,
to cry.
Tenny. Thank you. We have a few minutes left, and Kit, we are tossing back to you. Kit, if we are to go to Arizona, let's say one would want to visit Arizona. What would be the top 3 places that you would want one who has never been there? What
Like
top,
me.
like I've been there, but just a little.
I'm going to move there, so I need to know. I'm glad you're asking.
Where would you recommend one to go? Top 3 places. Or top
My
three
top
things to
three
do.
places to visit in Arizona is the first place would actually be
Turn up your
Sedona.
volume, Kit.
If you're into, hello, 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 can you hear me? Hello?
Okay.
Hello, hello. Okay, so I would actually recommend Sedona as one of my top 3. It includes hiking, sightseeing, as well as the Grand Canyon. The Grand Canyon is one of the most popular spots to visit. You can also go hiking and stuff stuff like that. I've never really been to the Grand Canyon, but I've been to Sedona. And the last place where I recommend is staying at a resort. Here, there are a lot of resorts that you can stay. If you're not into the outdoorsy, you can find different activities to do, like swimming or go to the spa. Those are definitely my top 3. And enjoying what the amenities of the resort, just like what I said, the spa, or even golfing. Golfing is one of my favorite outdoor activities to do because it doesn't rain too often, but yeah, you can go out basically anytime that you want to go golfing.
Sounds like a lot of great activities.
Yes.
As long as I can avoid that 100+ degree weather, I think I'll stay at
Oh,
the resort.
yeah.
and enjoy the
Once
cold.
you're in it,
Lisa, you've
I
been
think you can
to
take.
Las Vegas and Southern California. Where in Las Vegas would you recommend one to go? Top 3, aside from the strip, avoiding the strip.
For in Las Vegas, I think the hidden treasures there are the community things. Okay, because they have a community center every couple of miles. So if you want to get fit and you don't want to be outside in the heat, although Las Vegas has a lot of beautiful hiking areas, but if you want to get fit and you don't want to be out in the heat, you can just like pay $5 a month and be able to go to open gym and play volleyball 2 or 3 times a week. So for me, that's one of the hidden treasures. Another thing that I loved about Las Vegas is if you're over 50, and I'm not saying I'm over 50, but I did enjoy certain privileges there. If you're over 50, there are some of the resorts there that have like movies for $4, free coffee for anyone over 50 on Wednesdays. So there's a lot of like hidden treasures that cater to very young children and the elderly. And so I believe that that's why people move there and decide to retire there. I know I want to retire there maybe one day, but I am loving Arizona. So it's up in the air. And then another thing that I would suggest, like especially if you want to eat really good food, is I would go to the Asian sector, which has wonderful food for very, very cheap. I would look around for like some of the older casinos still have steak and eggs at any time of the night. A couple of them are still cheap, like around $7. During the day, those are about $16, $15, but you can get them. You can get steak and lobster at one of the older ones for, I believe, $12. And pretty much basically, if you want to taste some really good food, I would move off and away from the strip and maybe go to the M Resort, which the studio buffet charges only like $15 or $16 during lunch during the week, and it's really great food, great quality food. I believe someone had mentioned to me that the original chef had come from the Rio, and for those of you who don't know, the Rio was the original buffet in Las Vegas. So a little bit of tidbit there, but those would be my things that I would hope that people would check out if they ever make it to Las Vegas.
Thank you, Lisa. It sounds like some great options for the times when we get some vacation and can go visit Las Vegas. Sarah, are you still here with us?
Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Sarah. would love to hear about Virginia Beach. Are there maybe three things that you would recommend to us who might be coming to visit Virginia Beach?
Top three places.
I can't hear.
Sarah, audio. Can you turn on your mic? Is she muted?
Can you hear me now?
Okay,
I can hear
okay.
you
Top
now.
three places to go to in Virginia Beach, or top three things to do.
In Virginia Beach, well, we have a lot of for locals only beaches. It's a tourist spot, all right. It's like the elephant in the room. If you say Virginia Beach, if everybody knows you have to go to the oceanfront, check out the beaches. But we have a lot of for locals only spots, and several of them are beaches where it's not crowded. It's beautiful beaches. We have the Pongo Sandbridge Beach, and then we also have Chicks Beach. We also have a famous Chesapeake Bay Bridge tunnel where you can actually fish on the pier, and you can really get huge fishes, not just small, but you can get skate, sharks, and big games, big fishes like that at the Chesapeake Bay Bridge tunnel. Not far from here, we have the First Landing State Park. Of course, it's up in discussion and arguments, but many say this is where the first pilgrims landed here, and it's called First Landing State Park. It's very historic. This is where they first landed. It's called the First Landing State Park. And 45 minutes drive away from Virginia Beach is we also have the historic Colonial Williamsburg. You have a lot of historic places, things to see there. You also have Williamsburg Busch Gardens, and you have the Water Country USA. But not to snub Norfolk, Virginia. We have a lot of fun things to do in Norfolk, Virginia as well. If you're into military or Navy things, they have an actual ship that's retired in Nauticus, and I believe it's USS Wisconsin. You can get on that ship and travel the whole ship. It's open to the public. That's called the USS Wisconsin. So there's a lot of many things to do here in the Virginia Beach, Norfolk, Hampton Roads area. We are sort of like maybe an unknown destination, but we keep it to ourselves. We don't really share because at times it's so crowded and the locals are not really amused from the traffic that we get from the tourists. But I'm spilling the secret now. If you want to go see some nice area in historic places, military archives and museum, we also have NASA over there in Langley. So this is a treasure trove of places, things to do and see.
Thank
Back
you,
to
Sarah. Thank you for joining us today.
I've taken mental
I'm just
note.
gonna
Some good
sit here in a
places.
hammock.
Enjoy the pool.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, and before we say goodbye, we would ask Tenny, aside from Times Square, because I know it's a place that one would see if he or she is a first-time New York visitor.
Definitely.
But aside from Times Square, what are the few secret or not too visited visited tourist spots? Not to visited tourist spots.
We know what you
Not
mean.
to visited
I know what you
spots
mean.
that you would want our viewers to see when they go to New York.
You see, I'm a born and raised New Yorker, so and even for me who lived in New York for almost 40 years, it's still kind of like I haven't seen everything. But one of my favorite places that I love going as a whether my family or friends visit or if it's some just on a random day is I love walking the Brooklyn Bridge, and whether you do it morning, noon, and night, it's always a beautiful experience to see the skyline of New York, of Lower Manhattan, and just to be able to walk from Manhattan to another borough. That's one of my favorite places, and it's free. Only 1.5 mile walk, or you could walk it, you could jog it, you could run, you could even take your bike. Um, so that's number one. Speaking about Brooklyn, everyone raves about Brooklyn pizza, and I agree that
pizza, there's Brooklyn pizza, and then there's regular pizza. Brooklyn pizza is just probably out of this world. There's just a difference when you have pizza in specific places. If you wish to, if you want some places, I can recommend you some places in Brooklyn. They have probably the best pizza out of anywhere in New York City. And let's see, this one's
Tenny.
hard. I'm like another one
Oh,
is.
sorry.
She's telling us about some more great places.
Go ahead, go ahead.
I'm trying to think because it's just overwhelming. There's just so many things to do in New York City. But if you're out in Queens, I guess we'll talk about food. Like I said, Queens is the best place for food. Any diverse, because of its diversity. Astoria, Queens is a very highly populated Greek place, Greek community, I should say. Probably the most populated, even more populated than Greece. So if you're into Greek food, come to Astoria. There's great food trucks, great restaurants that have delicious Greek food.
Sounds like a plan. Thank you, Jenny. And thank you for joining us today at Eagle News Live, Washington, D.C. Thank you also, Lisa Desena in Arizona, Kit Maglunong, thank you, and Sarah Nachman, who also, by the way, has just celebrated her birthday. So happy birthday, Sarah.
Congratulations.
We also would like to say happy birthday to Ichiro. Ichiro Lasha. Happy birthday, Ichiro. And also happy 60th birthday to Janet Ricardo. Happy birthday.
Very good.
Well, thank you for joining us. I am Eliza Gonzalez Manglikmot.
I'm Blaine Brooks.
Have a good afternoon.
Thank you. Take care, everyone.